Hello, everyone. This is Ryan Reese from Mission Cloud, and I'm excited to talk with DJ from Mixbook. He's the CTO there, and we're going to talk about how Mixbook leveraged generative AI to offer personalized photo book experiences. During this talk, we'll introduce Mixbook and printed photo books if you're not familiar, but you should be. Great product. How genAI can improve the creation of these photo books, the challenges that were faced in generative AI photo captions, and then all the lessons learned and considerations and insights we had during this project. DJ, tell us about Mixbook.
Thanks, Ryan. It's awesome to be here. Mixbook is a #1 rated photo book company, and we're making it fun and easy to turn memories into stunning photo products that celebrate the moments and the people you love. And that's just our company mission, to empower people to be creative and to connect deeply with their loved ones. How do we do it? We do it with an innovative, user-friendly design platform and a mobile app powered by AI technology, the best and largest selection of designs and templates and customization options, and exceptional quality and value in every product. We have some pretty cool partnerships with renowned brands, Martha Stewart, PetSmart, Crayola, Hallmark, and we've got 30,000 plus five-star reviews from our customers. We devote a lot of our time to our editor and the immersive creative space that we've created. We call it the Mixbook Studio.
That's awesome, DJ. 30,000 positive reviews is amazing. And I hear you got a video you made for us.
Yeah, let's roll the tape and you'll get a quick view into what Mixbook's all about. All right. Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit about Mission Cloud?
Thanks, DJ. Yeah, so Mission Cloud, we're an AWS Premier partner. We're one of the few remaining all-in AWS one-stop shops where you're able to come to Mission and you can do cost optimization, 24/7 MSP, or professional services. This project is one of the cool projects that professional services do to help customers where they are on that journey. Lately, as you can imagine, everyone is looking at how generative AI can help their business. We're one of AWS's lead generative AI partners, and we're super excited to be here talking about Mixbook and all the cool things that they're doing. DJ, talk some about, how you're using genAI for the photo books.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun getting together to think about how generative AI can improve the creation of a photo book. Of course, we've got thousands and thousands of themes. And when you think about how a user would go in and predetermine what kind of theme they were going to use, which would structure the rest of that journey, we've come so far. Now we know that they were on a trip. We know that they had a year in review, and we know that it's a birthday. There's so many events and actions that we know about, and we're using photo curation to make that easy for the user to really, in one click, start their book, and the theme is automatically selected. So automatic theme selection is really a game changer because, as fun as it is to go through several thousand themes, it's really nice to be able to just have that automatic suggestion. And also instantly organizing photos. You used to just do chronological ordering, but with EXIF data and the things that we had available. But now we can detect the actions. We know that you were traveling, you were getting off of an airplane, you went to dinner with your loved ones. We're able to see all of these things in your photos and curate those moments for you in ways that are really would normally be time intensive. But for us, we're really trying to inspire you to recognize those moments that you may have forgotten as you're reliving and building and curating your memories into a photo book or a keepsake. And also harnessing both computer vision and LLMs. It's a really powerful way to chain these technologies where we're able to enumerate and understand a lot of things from computer vision. And by enumerating those and incorporating those into our prompts for LLMs, we can do some really powerful things. And of course, collaborative memory building and sharing is something that we're doing more of. And you'll see that over time, you'll not only be building and constructing memories with the ones that you love, you'll be sharing them and resharing them and appending to those memories with your trusted, most closest loved ones. And of course, storytelling is a great use case for large language models. We can inject tone. We can have parameters that we'll get into and safeguards. We can also search for maximum delightfulness. And I'm going to go through a little bit later on here some of the challenges and some of the unlocks that we had in trying to apply generative AI to storytelling, along with you, Ryan.
No, that's awesome. I think as you're sitting there and, we had a lot of conversations about implementing genAI, it's really important to understand the system, right? And what you're trying to accomplish with your models. As you talked about, there's a lot of different pieces that go into that final piece of total storytelling, right? Where you want to break down that system, and often you'll have multiple models and multimodal pieces that are going to go into that, right? So it's really exciting to watch how you can take each step and build it as a genAI solution. And then from there, string them all together to create an overall system. Now, as we're designing that, right, there are things to consider. What are the available models you have, right? How are you going to run those models? Are you going to use API access? Are you going to run them in your own containers? Depending on what you use, right? If you were using something like AWS Bedrock, which is that API access layer, then that can make things simpler, but you have a limited number of models to use. But if you use your own containers using something like SageMaker Jumpstart, then you have a lot more models, but you have to manage the infrastructure. So it's really important when you're thinking about implementing genAI to really understand, hey, what are the models I need to use? How am I going to interact with the system, right? How am I passing data back and forth? And then, as we talked about, right, chaining multiple models. And I know for the Mixbook use case, we were chaining multiple models together because you have to look at, hey, what's the output from each of these models? And the really cool thing about Mixbook is it's a lasting memory, right? This is a coffee table book potentially that people come and share and adore, right, where you're looking at it versus the single system on your phone. And so when you think about a printed product, you really have to understand what resolution those images have to be and how it really looks, right? So it's really important to understand that full system and everything that you're looking at.
Yeah, I love our ongoing conversation on that front, Ryan. Per invocation versus dedicated infrastructure. This is an ongoing dialogue, and we're learning more and more every day. So thank you very much for your guidance.
No, absolutely. And I think it was exciting to explore all of those different models, right? One of the things as you load up your images that you really care about in books is, hey, captioning your photos, right? This is a pretty active area of research. And so it's really interesting to see what each of the models can do. And so we tested a bunch of different models with DJ's team on just, hey, what can you do with captions? And as you can see here, we have 4 different systems we were using, and each of them has different levels that they were accurate to, or just how much content was there. So it's really exciting to just, test out each individual model. And that's a key as you build a genAI system, is to look at all the different models and really understand what's going on. And you can see in the simplest case, it thinks it's a panda bear eating a banana in a jungle setting, which, obviously we can tell easily that it's not. And some of the more advanced cases in the bottom, right, it gives you a very detailed description that's probably a little longer than you want in a photo book. So you can take these descriptions and then edit them as well with LLMs, which is kind of that stringing multimodal input that we were talking about. So maybe, DJ, you can talk about some of those challenges we saw as we made the captions.
Yeah, another interesting point, you bring up this fact of, trying so many different large language models and in so many different ways. I remember one of the mind-blowing aspects of exploring which models to use was seemingly counterintuitive. But we looked at a 7 billion article, a 13 billion, and a 70 billion article LLM. And the funny thing was, in trying to emit captions based on the prompting, which we'll get into here in a second, we found that the 7 billion actually performed the output with maximum satisfaction and just as well as a system with more articles. So it does pay to try things out. One of the challenges that we had was that, we're not just looking at one photo. we're looking at what we call a photo spread, a layout of photos. And in Mixbook, we've got some pretty cool technology that we've used to determine when everybody's smiling and when everybody's eyes are open. If you're like me, you're taking 17 photos, and Mixbook does a really good job of finding that one in the cluster of 17, but also quite good at looking at those actions and organizing those photos across those pages into spreads and making sure that they relate to one another. Doing a caption and generating, a caption from a large language model for one photo is a certain exercise. And there's a lot that we learned by training and re-instructing and retraining with individual photos. But it got infinitely more complicated when we were looking at a cluster of photos. But getting the clustering right is part of that battle. And one of the cases we had, someone might come into the system and actually explicitly choose a wedding theme for their work, for their creative work. And they're bound to that wedding theme by choosing that because they like the way that it looks. But they may have a bunch of content for a newborn, to celebrate the birth of a newborn baby. And maybe that mixing of the template and the, content differ. But with AI, we're actually able to look at those photos and determine what's in them. So instead of someone getting a wedding book, we know that there's an infant in the photo and it's a newborn baby, and we can still produce captions that go above and beyond the theme selection. And that was a really huge unlock for us as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think another thing on that point, right, doing the detection and understanding embellishments. You mentioned, a birthday party or a special event, right? And so often we see in these books that you want to have, happy birthday scrolled over the top, or maybe you just want a fun image like the stork here if you had a baby. And so I think that's one of the cool things is that with the genAI, instead of going through all the different embellishments that you guys have already created, that you can auto-generate these, right? And then look at how do I make them actually work through the chain by looking at, hey, I need a transparent background. I need other features to make that image work. So I think that's, a really powerful storytelling piece that was added into the features for the photo books as well.
Awesome. It's getting really fun, Ryan, as we're applying this to stickers and backgrounds and all the geographical maps. And it's really a pretty amazing toy box full of stuff. But we certainly had challenges with prompt generation. When you're messaging 50 million people to come to your site and to try a new AI feature, even the smallest conversion has the potential to frustrate the end user. And so we really wanted maximum delightfulness, but also maximum safety. So as you know, when we're constructing a prompt to use with an LLM, we're looking at system prompts and user prompts, of course. And of those prompts, we have, the philosophy of one prompt producing maximum delightfulness. So the wildest instruction that you can imagine to get maximum delightfulness out of a spread of photos. We're telling our system that it's a sentimental scrapbooker, and that sentimental scrapbooker is delighted to share and use language that is very, very good at illustrating emotional context. But if you do that, it can actually have negative effects. And so we have another prompt that we use for maximum safety. And when you go through the exercise of the prompt for maximum delightfulness and one for maximum safety, you wind up with this sort of healthy Venn diagram of what you're trying to get the system to do. And of course, you can offer, with many LLMs, a re-instruction prompt as well to further focus the output. And that's also a really important thing to help on the safety side of things. But when you choose this direction of not just going for maximum delightfulness, but also that safety prompt, you're going to wind up in a much better place with your resulting prompt. So that's an important thing that we learned as well. And of course, the tools arsenal is all the usual suspects here. S3, SageMaker. We tried so many LLMs and different article sizes, as I mentioned, and we're still trying. And, per invocation versus dedicated infrastructure. If you've got a cyclical business and you're killing it in the fourth quarter and you've got 10x the volume and requests per second, you might look at building that kind of fault tolerant infrastructure that can quickly and easily shift from per invocation like Bedrock and to dedicated infrastructure. It's a really great model to have both of those in the ecosystem.
No, absolutely. Super important point on the dedicated infrastructure, right? As you're small, doing stuff with POCs or MVPs, large language models are amazing. But like, DJ said, as you start looking at, hey, I'm going to drive massive amounts of traffic, then you start wanting to look at, are there smaller specific models that work great in this case where I'm going to use SageMaker Jumpstart to get there. Now, DJ, you talked a lot about prompts. Give us some insight on that.
I think I already covered most of this, but the key takeaway from this is that for prompt one, which is that sort of poetic, artistic language, if the theme didn't match, sometimes we use the theme and the photo spread, and if it was incorrect or a mismatch, we found that the captions could really miss the mark. And it was also more likely to hallucinate and to generate inappropriate content. With prompt two, extremely boring on its own. Maximum safety is great if you're doing a tax return, not so great if you're trying to create a sentimental caption. You think of a teenager in Midtown Manhattan doing a killer jump on his skateboard right in the middle of the street. In that moment when the taxis hadn't quite caught up to the light, and his friend getting that picture. Well, instead of describing that, we were looking for, instead of a teenage boy on skateboard jumping in Midtown Manhattan, we wanted urban thrills. And to get to that point, you really have to work your prompts and to re-instruct as much as you can and look at those negative cases. And the more you do that with both of these prompt types, the more you're going to find the edges, and then the more delightful and concise your output will be.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you kind of went over some of those key findings.
Yep.
As we talk about this with customers, right? Being very specific is super important. What were some of the other key findings as you were working through this?
Thanks, Ryan. We spent so much time on bias and toxicity guardrails. Going into this, I didn't think that we would be spending 60 to 70% of our science and engineering time on gender bias, making sure that the system was going to do exactly what we wanted it to. It was a lot of defensive programming, a lot of trying to run tests to produce undesirable results. It's not for everybody. We had some engineers just don't like looking at anti-patterns all day long and to be searching through the negative effects. But we did it, and it was worth the work. I think that if anyone's going into this type of technology, you have to create an ethics discussion around what you're trying to do. You need to make a list of all the types of things, the patterns that you don't want to be produced by your caption, so that we don't offend people, we don't have unintended consequences. And you need to spend that surprising amount of iterative time in engineering. You've got to factor that into what you're doing. And of course, trust the expertise of experts. We've worked with a lot of firms on this, but I have to say, Mission Cloud really helped us kickstart this and to think about what was possible in the most extreme cases. And that was a really fun exercise for us because it led us to a lot of practical steps along the way.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I think it is important, as you're working with other partners and just out there, we obviously don't work with everyone, that there's a lot of people building and understanding these systems. And as you're working on production, there's a lot of key things to remember, right? I'm a big fan of ChatGPT. I love it. I use it all the time, but it's also a toy, right? You're not putting ChatGPT into production. And that's really where the hard part comes, right? Production is hard. You have to build out a lot of infrastructure, right? I've just got an image here of, what a RAG-based chatbot looks like. And you can see there's a lot of services that have to happen here. And then you have to build a whole LLM ops framework around this to ensure you get the best answers, that you keep your knowledge base up to date. if you fine tune any of the models, right, you want to set up a fine tuning schedule as you create new knowledge or things change. So it's really critical that you start thinking about these things as you're building out a system that, hey, there's a lot of infrastructure to deal with. And then things to understand is cost, right? I don't think people feel that things are going to cost that much, but once you start looking at some of these implementations, especially if it's an LLM, you pay for it by tokens. Often it's a million tokens up and down, right? You pay both ways, how much you put up, how much you put down. 750 words is about 1,000 tokens. And when you're doing a system like RAG or something of that nature, you can use a million tokens really quickly, right? You're pulling stuff out of your knowledge base. It might be, thousands of words long that you're passing into an LLM. So that's something to take into account, right? Is how many tokens you're going to use, how many users do you have? And, as you start getting larger and using more users, it may make sense to use SageMaker Jumpstart in that LLM ops strategy to make this as cost effective as possible.
Ryan, I'll say SageMaker Jumpstart was a game changer for us. AWS did a lot to really make sure that we had the time and the space and the credits to figure out what was possible. And I think that creative time where we weren't worrying about, being metered like the cab was running, those are some of the most fun times that we had and some of the most exciting ones. And those discovery moments led to real production deployments. So well worth the jumpstart.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great things that people have done, right, to already create a container that you can easily use. And, in this case, we strung together several containers to bake multi-model systems. You can see here, prompt engineering, if you guys have played with it, is still quite difficult, right? This one, it'll make a lot of fun images, right? Your astronaut riding a white horse, but then you can look at, hey, am I also going to negatively prompt this, right? You don't want it to be ugly or blurry or anything like that. And what you end up doing often is you'll do a lot of extra processing, right? Where in this case, most models only create images of a particular size. And then you have to look at other models, right? I need to upscale this image. I need to make it into a vector image, right? You're stringing together a bunch of models all inside of AWS, inside the SageMaker area. So you're making this whole pipeline. And that's what's going to happen in a lot of use cases that are outside of just that chatbot, is that there's going to be multi-model systems to get you where you want to go. So keep that in mind as you're working with these systems. It's not going to be, hey, I just go here and it's done. You're really going to have to look at, how do I work through every single piece in a multi-model system? So this is another cool use case. It's fun right now. We were working with Mixbook on figuring out, hey, what are some additional features that could happen in the future? And I'm sure some of you guys have seen the fun editing of scenes. You can see here, this is taking the books and stuff off a coffee table and adding, an extra large bag in this case. But this is just showing the art of the possible. I'm sure, DJ, there are some other art of the possible things you were really thinking of, during this as well.
Yeah, a lot of fun to explore, Ryan.
That's Mixbook and where we are today. If you want to talk about getting started with genAI, you can see the barcode here, scan that. It'll put you in touch with Mission and we can talk and see how we can help you. And then, really excited to work with Mixbook. And, DJ, you guys have an offer as well for everyone.
Special code for everyone here in the conference today, Innovate 50. Be sure to use the code. Check out, have some fun at Mixbook, use our AI tools, have fun in the Mixbook studio. And I think you'll be able to create things that you didn't think you could do on your own.
Yeah. And I mean, these books are awesome, right? You have it on your coffee table. They're conversation starters when your friends or family are over. It's amazing to just have a high quality printed book for your memories that you can easily pick up and find what you're looking for versus scrolling all day. Like I see so many people trying to find exactly that right picture for the moment.
Yeah, when you think about how hard it is to put together a comprehensive book, when you put it in a package like a full-blown lay-flat book that sits across your coffee table, that knocks your socks off when you pick it up, when you feel it, when you touch it, when you look at it, it's a really great experience. And funny, even my son is excited about seeing his photos in books. It's really a funny medium. We all grew up this way, but you can have a lot of fun creating your digital memories and sharing those digital memories. But if you choose to make an artifact, I think you'll like this code. It's a really good discount.
Awesome. Really appreciate everyone that was here today listening. And of course, really appreciate your time, DJ. Awesome to work with you. Obviously, we're big fans of mission of Mixbook. So thanks, everyone.
Likewise, Ryan, looking forward to it.